Well, we continue to follow today's tariff and trade news, and helping make sense of it is Greta Peisch. She's the former general counsel of the United States Trade Representative and currently a partner at Wiley Law. Greta, thank you so much for joining us. I want to start with just your reaction. We just heard from the president after that announcement from the White House of this pause on the reciprocal tariffs to most nations. What do you make of the news out of the White House this afternoon?
Well, I think like everybody else, experiencing a lot of whiplash and just trying to react and understand what the president is doing here. I mean, this is a major change and reversal of where the administration has been saying before that there would be no pause in the tariffs, that they would be coming into effect and presumably stay in effect for some period of time. But we have also heard recently administration officials talking about negotiations with parties. And having been on one side of the negotiating table for the United States, those negotiations do take some time and resources and people. And so negotiating with many partners at once does raise questions. How can you do it on a fast timeline? And presumably this pause will give them some opportunity to get those talks going.
And, take us behind the scenes a little bit, because we heard the number, I think, from the White House as much as 70, 75 nations that are either calling them, have reached out to people at the USTR or Commerce or what have you, the White House directly. What do those negotiations look like? Sort of who has the power to sort of negotiate on behalf of the federal government? As you mentioned, I imagine these are very complex and lengthy talks.
Well, in the normal course, it is the U.S. Trade Representative who negotiates trade agreements on behalf of the United States and is on the most solid legal authority basis to do so. And I think here we're hearing that others may be involved in the negotiations, Secretary Bessent, perhaps Secretary Lutnick. So there is some question there about how they're going to proceed with these negotiations. And I think there's also a question of what the objective is. And we don't know that yet either. And we also don't know what kind of direction and authority the president has given these trade officials to conclude agreements on his behalf, and how involved the president himself may be in determining, what a sufficient outcome should be.
And we see the markets reacting favorably today to the pause on some of these increased tariffs, but it should also be noted that the tariffs on China actually went up. What sort of impact do you think that could have, specifically when we're talking about our trade with China?
Well, these tariffs are quite high. Now we're over 100% and even higher on certain products that were already subject of tariffs from the first Trump administration that continued in place through the Biden administration. So the tariffs are really, again, quite high. And for many products, that could be a prohibitive tariff, that they would not be able to, importers would not find it economical to bring those products in. Now, there may be some products where there isn't a substitute from China, that and we need certain goods, or producers need certain goods, and those may continue to flow at some level of trade. It's really going to be a product and sector specific question as you look at what is the level of trade? Is there a substitute? Is there room in the price elasticity for some products to come in anyway? And we just don't know what volume that will be at this time.
During Trump's first term, we saw him certainly use tariffs in a much more limited way, at least compared to what we've seen over the past week. But were there any sort of outcomes or clues that we can decipher from some of the fallout and impact we saw from those tariffs during the first term that could help us maybe predict what the potential impact could be this time around?
Well, those tariffs, it felt big at the time, the tariff actions, particularly with respect to China, that the administration was undertaking. And we saw some shifting of trade away from China. But our overall trade relationship, the overall volume of trade, was not severely impacted. Again, we saw shifts from some places where there were higher tariffs, more trade in places where there were lower tariffs, and our trade continued to grow, frankly, with China. In this case, we're really in unprecedented territory, so we don't know exactly where this is going. And we also don't know, are we going to see a similar pattern or approach to negotiations with China? We've heard the president say continually that he's open to negotiations with China. We saw that again in the first Trump administration, where we did see some escalatory tariffs go back and forth with a pause, negotiation, and a partial takedown, along with other commitments with China. And it's hard to discern whether that's the type of agreement that the president would be interested this time around, or if he's looking at this trading relationship completely differently.
All right, former counsel for the U.S. Trade Rep Greta Peisch. Greta, thank you so much.
Thank you.